What's happening, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to the show. This is Own Video, and today we're going to be talking about the power and the benefits of YouTube podcasts. We're going to talk a little bit about some of the mystery that's behind a YouTube podcast and what is a YouTube podcast versus, like a YouTube video and the difference between a Spotify webcast. And today's video is really designed for the serious business professional. But even if you're a YouTuber or a creator and you're thinking about starting a podcast, we're going to be looking at, should you do it on your own channel? Should you be doing it on other people or on a new channel, and what that might look like? So if you're out there today, like my man Lyle Weber, I want you to say what's up in the comment section below. I'd love to hear from you, and we're going to dive in today because my goal is not necessarily to spend too much time with you today, but I want to have a good solid video where we can talk about a podcasting strategy for your business, and we're going to be going through a live example. So let's actually start with, what is a podcast on YouTube? So when we talk about a podcast, typically what we've been thinking about is like an audio-based podcast that gets uploaded to, Libsyn or Podbean, and then it goes on to Apple Podcasts. It goes on to maybe the Google Play Store. It goes on to Spotify, which has dominated the podcasting field. And these are typically audio-only broadcasts, right? So that's what we think of when we think about a podcast. But that definition is changing. For you guys that don't know me, I want to say what's up, by the way, to Jay Hauslander, Ed Weinberg, and Decoding Religion. It's great to see you guys here today. Now, we have been building YouTube channels for the last 14 years, and typically our client is a business professional. We don't necessarily work with YouTube creators, people that are doing family vlogs or, pranks or game shows. Like that's not really our market. So when we talk about a podcast, that definition is changing to include video podcasts. Okay, and I can show you an example of that. Let's go on to my screen share here. This is actually a look at one of the examples that we're going to look at today. But I'm actually going to bring it over here to Family Life. Family Life is one of our clients, phenomenal organization. You can see here that they've got podcasts right here in their tab. Now, everybody has this, but you have to activate it. So if you don't have it, you guys probably can't see this. No, you're still looking at the I think you're still looking at the PowerPoint screen. So let me go back here. Part of what we're doing today is like getting refreshed on our scenes here. So I think I just didn't set that one up earlier. Let me kind of go back to it, and I will share the entire screen, and that should change us up a little bit. Okay, you guys see that? Dad Reviews, what's up, my man? Great to see you. Mike Phillips is saying the video podcast is my jam. Yeah, I'm telling you guys, the video podcast is becoming the new definition of a podcast. So I'm going to show you guys the examples here. As I go into podcasts, okay, we can see that this channel in particular has actually 2 different podcasts programmed into their channel. And when I come in here, what I'll see, and this is a little bit older, what I actually see here is a video series that is set up like a podcast. And why is it set up like a podcast? Well, it could also be called a video, okay? That's the definition I want you guys to get into. Notice this is 10 minutes and not necessarily 45 minutes, okay? So let's go back. And again, we're defining what is what is a video podcast or a podcast on YouTube. Okay, so here's another example, and this is pulling it right in from the RSS feed. So, what happens is on this channel, they do these podcasts, and the RSS feed will load it up with the standard podcasting images, and then the team will go in there and change out the thumbnails and potentially change the titles as well, so that it fits better on YouTube. Now, this is just one example. Like, you don't have to love this. I don't want you looking at this and going like, oh, and I don't even like that. That's not the point here. I'm seeing if I can go back um to me here. Okay, great. So why am I showing you this? I'm showing you this because podcasts can take all sorts of different shapes and sizes onto YouTube. What's important is about the way you're structuring the strategy, okay? So on this channel that I just showed you here on the Family Life Today channel, this podcast absolutely blew up this channel from a sense of views per week and total retention. That may not be the case on everybody's channel, right? So before you just go, let's say that you've got your YouTube channel and you're going to launch a podcast. And by the way, I'd love to know how many of you guys have podcasts now, and how many of you guys are going to create a podcast. Let me know. Let me hear from you in the comment section. I want to say what's up to Kim out there she's in her apron. And let's see if I can put this comment on screen. I'm not exactly sure how to do that. Let's see if we go add to broadcast. Okay. I have been wanting to start a podcast for my channel for a couple years now. Okay, so this is where I want you guys paying extra careful attention here, because by and large, your podcasts are going to be 40 to 60 minutes, correct? You're going to be interviewing people. It's not going to be audio only. I just showed you an example of an audio only podcast on the Family Life channel. They are now adding video to it. So this is the game changer. So when you're on YouTube, you've got 3 different news feeds. You've got the live feed, you've got the video feed, and you've got your shorts feed. Now, your podcasts are going to be found in the video feed, which means they're going to be competing with your other smaller 10-minute videos. So Kim's out there she's in her apron. Like, what is the condition of your channel right now? And I'm not necessarily asking you, Kim. I'm like just kind of asking everybody, like, what is the condition of your channel right now? Do you have momentum on your long form videos? If so, then doing a podcast on your current channel could hurt your channel. Why? Because you've got an audience that's conditioned to your 10-minute videos. And then what you're going to do is you're going to bring in this 40-minute episodic content that's maybe interviews. It's different from the rest of the things that you do. And that could hurt your channel. And here's how. Because you launch a podcast, you don't get a lot of views because people aren't used to it. They don't want 40-minute content from you. They're not used to 40-minute content from you. So then what you do is you go and you send them a new 10-minute video, and they go, YouTube goes, well, nobody clicked on your last video, so I'm not going to show your new 10-minute video out to very many people. So launching a podcast on your current channel could actually have some devastating effects. Now, the reason I ask what the condition of your channel is, because the channel I just showed you a second ago, Family Life, they had sort of a stagnating channel, okay? So this podcast brought new life into the channel. And here's what we did, right? You can kind of go through this and see that it's all audio, right? But when we go back to look at their latest content, what I'm seeing is these are their new podcast episodes. And look, 163, we're not raving about that, but look at this one. Oh, no, that's not the one. Look at this one, The Highly Happy Marriage, 3.2 thousand views. So we're actually reviving the channel with the podcast here. And what we've done is we've taken what was once audio only, and we've now added a video component to it. Okay, so that's step 1. Step 2 is my buddy Sean here. Is this on this channel? No, that's on his channel. You guys know Sean, right? Look at what we've done here. We've been able to repurpose some of these as well. So when I look at this one, this is a full podcast episode, but we made shorts clips out of it, which you guys are all probably doing. And this particular video has 11,000 views on it, right? So when I come here, I can see 11,000 views. So when we're looking at adding a podcast to the channel, you've really got to ask yourself, like, what's the condition of my channel right now? And will a podcast help or hurt me? Now, my advice to you largely is going to be to put your podcast on a separate channel and develop an audience that wants to see the 40-minute content from you. This will not only eliminate contention in the algorithm, but also provide you with a new revenue stream. Not only AdSense, but also through the podcast sponsorships. Okay. So I think that this is a really important thing for us to be paying attention to. Okay. So Mike is saying I had an okay level of my videos, right? So, the question then, Mike, is like, would a podcast revive the channel or hurt the channel? And what you may want to do is put 5 episodes on. Put 5 episodes on and test how it does, and see where make a decision from there. You can always unlist them, and you can always go back and download them and put them onto another channel. Okay. So she's in her apron is saying, should I start another channel for the podcast? For you, Kim, I would. You have a pretty well-established channel. You're an influence in your space. So, what I would want to see you do is start a second channel and then promote it on the first channel. So you say, by the way, I started a new podcast channel. You guys can click on it up here. And let's see what you're writing here. Because I want to start bringing others onto the live shows for interviews, but I don't know if I should do it on a podcast. Yes. So this is where we get into the definition of a podcast. Like, the moment that you're interviewing people in an ultra long form context, like 30 minutes, 40 minutes, I believe you're now in the podcast zone, right? And so you may not call it a podcast, right? But other people are going to call it a podcast. And this is why I'm doing this video, is because we believe that you should be putting your podcast on YouTube, right? YouTube wants to compete with Spotify, and they are. I mean, look at the whole debacle with Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan left YouTube, and now he went to Spotify. Now he's leaving Spotify. He's coming back to YouTube. So what we want to do is figure out the right platform for your podcast and start uploading videos. Okay. Decoding Religion is saying, how about turning long videos into an audio podcast? Great question. Let's talk about formatting. Okay. So I think that your formatting is really important when it comes to a podcast. In fact, I do believe that podcasting refers to a format not too dissimilar to how a TV show is called a sitcom, right? When we talk about a TV show, we could talk about a sitcom, or we can talk about a cop drama, right? These are both TV shows, but they're known by their formats, right? So a sitcom, you're going to expect bright colors. You're going to expect like jokes, relationships between characters. In a cop drama, you're going to expect like a whole different, maybe like a longer format, right? It's going to be 60 minutes instead of 22 minutes, right? So that's what we want to talk about. And Michael Baker's asking a really similar question, and I want to get into that. So Michael Baker's asking about putting the podcast on multiple platforms. Yes. And you, Michael Baker, if I had a wish or a dream for you, it would be that you are putting your podcast on YouTube and also onto X, formerly known as Twitter. You have an audience there. You have a following there, and I think that that's something that's powerful for you. Okay, let's go back to turning long videos into an audio podcast. Okay. Yes, I would do that, but your podcast needs to have consistency to it in its deliverability, right? You should not have a podcast where some episodes are 10 minutes and some episodes are 30 minutes. You should really be shooting for a 30-minute podcast or a 60-minute podcast. Now, in this time in our culture, I'm all about the 30-minute podcast personally. I'm listening to a 2-hour health podcast right now. And I'm a little overwhelmed by it because it's like, man, this is going to take me a while to get through. But it's on a health topic that I'm super interested in. Put it in the comment section. Guess what that podcast is about. Some of you guys know me. So I'm going to see if you guys can guess what podcast it is or what the topic of the podcast is. I know some of you guys are going to get it, but I need to listen to the whole 2 hours. I kind of wish it was 4 30-minute episodes, right? Because our commuting time has changed. COVID changed the rules for podcasting. It used to be 60-minute podcasts. Now we're talking about 30-minute podcasts, and that's what I want you guys to look at. Okay, so let's say you've got these 25, 30-minute videos, and you're going to turn them into a podcast. You can't just do that. What I need you to do is re-record hook introductions. And I want you to put a CTA in the middle. And then I want you to do an ending for it as well. So what you're going to do is you're going to take that long form video that maybe exists on channel 1, and then you're going to download it. You're going to add an intro to it. It says, hey, this is Sally at Decoding Religion. I'm not sure your first name, so forgive me, Decoding. Say, hey, this is Decoding Religion, and in this next episode, or welcome to the Decoding Religion podcast. And in this next episode, we're really diving into blah, blah, blah. The big takeaways here are phenomenal. So I really hope you're in a place where you can listen and be a part of what we're doing. This particular episode comes from a pre-recorded interview. So sit back, relax, go to your garden, do your workout, and enjoy the show. And maybe there's like a, bing, 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 right? Sort of like a opening bumper. I don't really like that stuff anymore, right? Like if you're going to do a quick, decoding religion, it should be 3 seconds, 5 seconds, but not some big, long, show me that smile again. Remember the old TV shows, like the episode, like the opening song was like 2 minutes long, right? And I will challenge anybody, name a TV show from the 80s or 90s, and I will sing you the opening song. I still know it. Yeah, Carmen is saying 30 minutes is palatable and allows you to apply to what was shared. It gives you a break. It gives the viewer a break to go, okay, that was really good. Now I'll listen to another. That's powerful. So if you're going to upload, if you're going to take long videos and turn them into an audio podcast, you need to put them in a format that someone would recognize as an audio podcast. Okay, and I just mentioned how to do that. Now, let's go to another question from Michael Baker. Can you easily rip the audio to publish on podcast platforms? Yes, yes, yes. And then you ask a follow-up question, or do you want people coming to YouTube to listen? Okay, this is really the heart of why I'm going live today, because I want to show you guys a case study from one of our clients who's a doctor. And what we do with him is we film the podcast episode with him. And then we strip the audio and get it onto Spotify. But then we take clips and we put it onto YouTube. And this is where I'm going to want so many of you guys to actually go, is taking your podcast and putting it on audio in the 40 to 60 minute length, and then cutting out 7 to 10 minute clips for YouTube. Why? Because if you are a business professional, if you are a doctor, a lawyer, a financial pro, the chances of you being entertaining for 40 minutes, 60 minutes is extremely rare. I would not bet on you to be able to be able to keep someone interested. This is something you've got to build up to. And if you start publishing 60-minute episodes that might be good content, but you haven't necessarily learned how to bring a viewer in with an exciting hook, and then keep them interested with great questions, and then move them to the next episode with a killer close, then you're going to find that people are leaving your channel, and it's going to be hard to get off the ground. It's like trying to launch, a hot air balloon with a bunch of rocks in it. Okay, so let's take a look at an example from one of our clients. And I did ask you guys a second ago, okay, this is interesting. Hang on, I'm going around. When I post a 40-minute video, they actually do better than my shorter videos. Like the 1.5 hours, the 1.5 hours to 2 hour lives do really well. Yes, yes, yes. But the live video feed is different than the podcast feed. The podcast feed counts as your videos. They do not count towards your live. So, Kim, I am not saying don't do it. I'm just saying be aware of that and plan accordingly. If you're going to do a live podcast, you are committing to a certain amount of technical prowess. I'm guessing on your lives that it's just you ranting right now, or I don't mean ranting, but it's just you right now. Is that accurate? Whereas when you bring in an interview, you're now kind of entering into a world of pain. You're entering into this, like, you need your tech to work, their tech needs to work. They have to know their stuff. And in my experience, look, we had this phenomenal show called the Business of Video podcast, and it was amazing, and it broke records, and we loved it. But I'll tell you, we learned so much about even top YouTubers, people that are experienced. The moment you go live, it changes. So, Kim, I love that you have that audience retention. I definitely think, like, going live on the channel, I mean, I guess I would say experiment with it. Go live on the channel as you're doing. Put a podcast interview up. But here's what I might do. I might actually go do 5 podcast interviews on your current channel. And they're either pre-recorded or they're live streamed, or you pre-record them and then you premiere them, okay? And then in your standard live, tell everyone you've launched a podcast. Like, you guys cannot go out there and not promote your video. You have to let people know you're doing stuff, right? It's like a mattress sale, But if you don't tell anyone that your mattress company is having a sale, how will anyone know? So you don't want to sleep on that. Okay. See how it does. They might stick with the lives because they like you, but then the podcasts are like, well, I don't know who this other guy is, or I don't know who this other gal is, so I'm not interested in that. But at least now you know if they don't work, you unlist them and you put them up on the new channel, and then you do 6, 7, and 8, 9, and you put out all your next 5, all of your future episodes on that second channel. Okay, this I think is the part of YouTube that bothers people, bothers creators, because it's like work. It's like, but you've got to do it. You've really got to do it to test out what's going to give you a better bang for your buck. Okay, let's go back. Let's go back to Michael Baker's question about can you easily publish to other platforms? All right, let's go back into my screen share. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to share with you guys the example from Dr. Jake Root Cause. So from day one, let me say that again. This started as a podcast channel. And as we got numbers back, we started to understand how the audience wants us to deliver content. So, and you can see it here in the views, right? 1 year ago, 96 views, and yet it's still in the FYP. It's still recommending this to me as an individual. This is not what I want to show you. What I want to show you are some of these videos. Okay. So 72,000 views, 1.9 thousand views, 1.2 thousand views. And you can see here that this content is formatted a little bit differently. Look at this content here. I know you can't hear it. I'm not trying to make you hear it, but
viruses like to get into the cell and they like to hijack our nucleus and our ribosomes. So I remember.
Okay, so this is like the exact sort of strategy that I want to explain to you guys today. Now, similarly, Dr. Jake is also on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Play. So I can come up here and I can see, all of his episodes are now taking this shorter format. So what is this process? What is this process and why am I showing it to you? Let's talk about that. Here's what we do. Let's see if I can get my screens back to me. Okay, here we go. So by the way, that beautiful woman you saw on the podcast is my wife. My wife's my business partner. She's incredible. Here's how we do this. Teresa does all the research on trending topics. Most recently, we dug into the carnivore diet. And that carnivore diet and holistic cancer cures are the big like things I geek out on. So I think Decoding Religion nailed it with like how to beat cancer. That's exactly the content I was listening to. 2.5-hour podcast with my hero, Dr. Thomas Seyfried, and they're talking about the carnivore diet and its effectiveness for cancer patients. Now, all of that to say, Teresa does the research using our AI tools, right? We go when we find trending topics. We found the carnivore diet. Then what she'll do is she'll build out a question and answer for the doctor, who is an incredible guy, super dry. He's just super dry. Like, in fact, maybe I could.
From actually hijacking our nucleus and making it make itself, and also hijacking our ribosomes, which transcribe and translate to make more virus. And that's how a virus lives, is it goes into your cell and makes your...
Okay, so you kind of get the sense this guy's a doctor, right? Like it's he's not necessarily this hang on, I'm trying to go to me. Oh, look at that self down there. He's not necessarily like a charismatic type of guy, right? So that's Teresa does the research. And then she gets on an eCam call with the doctor and she questions and answers him. So she's like, Dr. Jake, I want you to say this. And then he says it. And then she goes, Dr. Jake, answer this question. And he answers it. Now, that version goes on Spotify. It goes on Apple and it goes on Google. But on YouTube, what we put are the 7 to 10 minute breakdowns of his answers to those questions. So with him in particularly, and this is why it's important for everyone to consider this, is can you control an audience for 40 minutes? Dr. Jake cannot. So what we did is we shut it down. We have a version for the audio and we have a version for the video. This, I believe, is how financial professionals like Michael Baker, how wealth managers, and how real estate agents are going to crush YouTube in the next season. We are in a weird economic time. We are in an election year right now. And you guys have to be in a place where you're willing and able to reach people where they're at and not where you've been. And this is a real hard thing to do. It's like, well, I do, like Mike was saying earlier. Mike's like, well, I'm kind of like all over the place. And it's like, okay, fair enough. But now's the time to get organized. Now's the time to really look at how can you deliver content in a way that your audience will appreciate from you? Because here's what's going on. Like, we don't have an hour to listen to your financial podcast, but 15-minute, 25-minute financial sound bites, bingo, baby. That's it. I look at that and I go, I can listen to that. Not only that, I look at that and I go, I could listen to this with my kids and like start to teach my kids stuff. So what I want you guys to think about is this, is what is the content that you want to do on a podcast? Why is it different from a 10-minute video? And have a really clear, now a 10-minute video could be a 15-minute video, 20-minute video, but why a podcast? Like, are you sure that you need to do that? Or should you just make 10-minute videos? Because that's your vibe. But if you're in a place where you're like, no, Owen, I have a calling, I have a vision, I want to interview moms, I want to interview clients, I want to interview people who could become clients, then you've got to start a podcast and you've got to start that on a second YouTube channel. Now, me and my company, this is what we do, and we can help you navigate this process. If you want to get a 30-minute call with us to look at what the strategy might be, let me tell you, that link is in the description box below. Click on that link, set up a call with me or one of my coaches, and here's what we're going to do. We're going to look at your process and how we can help you, right? Our team offers a full variety of services. So we can do everything for you, soup to nuts. But you may not need that. You might already have great content. You might need help with tech. You might need help with titles. Well, we want to be the yin to your yang. We want to find out what it is you do well, and then we want to fill in those gaps for you so that together you're the on-screen talent. We're the behind-the-scenes channel manager that is making your stuff work. The days of doing it all on your own, some of you guys are going to be set up with that. But the technology and the platform algorithms are changing so quickly, it really does help to have a professional in your back corner. So I appreciate you guys being here today, and I hope that you'll join me again. We are definitely we got a question here. Kimmy, great to see you. Am I going to see you at Vid Summit? Guys, I would love to see you guys at Vid Summit. I will be hosting the main stage once again. Main Street Business Strategies. What's up, my man? Great to see you. Hit the thumbs up button if you like this. I appreciate you guys spending time. John Anderson, one of our clients, is asking, when I begin my interview style recordings, do you recommend a weekly 10-minute rapid fire, or should we shoot for a 30 to 45-minute pop? For you, John, I want to see this. I want to see you building into the 10 minutes. I want to see you getting 40,000, 50,000 views on 10-minute videos. And once we get that, like maybe towards the end of the year, then I want to talk about next year potentially launching the franchising podcast. Yes, yes, yes. But without the ability to entertain or presentain for 10 minutes, it's going to be hard to presentain for 45. Okay. So, Main Street Business Strategies. Do you know who I am? Brother, you have been jumping into my lives, unless I'm wrong. But yes, I know who you are. And I'm glad to see you here. So I appreciate you guys being here today. Subscribe to the channel. Tell your friends about it. Look, we are YouTube channel consultants. Click the link down below. Get a 30-minute call. Let's review your stuff and see if it's a good fit for us to work together. Appreciate you guys being here. We'll see you in the next one.